Good morning.
Good morning.
So as I mentioned, this was as in your words, a vulnerable post. What's your experiencing been like trying to make, first of all, how did you work up the courage to make a post like this?
Well, I moved to Brandon in 2021, and I have really an incredible job, incredible colleagues, but it just felt like because there was this age gap between me and them, we're in a different life stage. Um, and you always tend to talk about work at the end of the day because there's always more to do, and we care so much about our students that it was hard to sort of tap out of that and find friends that were, yeah, in this similar kind of stage. And I moved to Brandon during COVID, I guess, sort of the tail end, if there was a tail end. And I wasn't used to that. I'm from Toronto, had been living in Montreal, and spent much of my early 20s in New York and Boston. So there's a lot of people and a lot of different groups based on your different interests. And so just the transition to a smaller community and a smaller community in a pandemic was difficult.
You talked. I mentioned as well in your post. You talk about some of the things you actively have been trying to do to connect. Uh, Tell us a little bit more about that because I didn't read the whole post. You actually go on here to talk about music, which you teach, obviously, but cooking, meditation, even you alluded to language classes. So you've tried a lot of things that deliberately to try to connect, right?
Definitely. Worked with an amazing trainer in Brandon at Circle B Fitness, and she has a really great fitness community around her. And at some point, it's just kind of traversing that barrier of, oh, I see these people all the time at these classes, but if you go to yoga class, you're probably not trying to be super chatty and meet friends, or if you're working out 4 days a week, like a lot of people are trying to get in, finish their workout, and get back to their families. So kind of jumping that barrier is a little hard. I think in music, we do it automatically all the time. And so I was sort of used to that. Your work community is your friend community. My partner is Mexican, so I started to do Spanish classes with the city, and that was really great. But again, there's that age divide. A lot of the folks who are coming out to these recreational programs either have little kids or they are older and sort of have more recreational time. So I just wasn't finding people who had a lot of space in their life. Um, yeah. And so I just thought, hey, I talk to my students about this all the time. If you need help with something, just ask. Like, you got to just ask.
What response have you had to your post? I mean, at last check, and this has grown, I think, since I last checked, but you had 200 likes, 137 comments. What kinds of things have people been saying?
Definitely. And that's not even the direct messages. There were a lot of direct messages that weren't posts. And there are some people who have said, hey, me and my boyfriend would love to meet up with you and your boyfriend. Maybe we could go to, a citywide garage sale and get lunch. Or in the Latin American community, there have been people who have said, they haven't had as many connections and friends, and they'd love to, hang out with us. So I've actually, for this entire time, been in Quebec and Ontario working. So I have like friend dates lined up for when I get back to Manitoba, and my partner's into it. So good for him too.
What I think is really interesting about this, though, is Marika, you're not the first person I've interviewed who struggled to make connections in Manitoba. There was an international student who posted a very similar thing, actually, on a Facebook page in the last number of years, and really struggled with this. And you actually had responses in your post people saying that we've struggled as well was one of the quotes. People are suggesting, joining clubs. When you look at the reactions here, or churches, there are a few offers in the thread, at least, that we saw to meet up. What sense do you make of, you talked about the size of the community being different from where you lived before, but are you able to make any other sense of sort of why it's so different from when you were in Montreal and Toronto?
Mm, I think maybe in Manitoba, there's just a different social tone. I find that folks couple up earlier, maybe start their own families earlier. As a generalization, obviously, that's not everyone, but I have seen a lot of younger families than I had seen previously. Maybe just, folks are kind of set in their high school friends. And, I think people who are into academia, who are into music, will gravitate to larger centers, right? I think there's kind of a bias there in that the folks who are in Brandon are maybe there for different reasons. It's a big agricultural community. There's a military base nearby, and those are not the reasons why we find ourselves in Manitoba. So, not to put up artificial walls or anything, but there is a selection bias. Most people, we've made a lot of friends in Winnipeg, friends of friends, and that's been easier. But we didn't know anyone who lives in Brandon, and that just makes it hard. I'm not Manitoban, so I don't really know, but
Hmm.
but yeah, we're
What?
not into hockey.
And not everyone is, but we can get lumped into these themes because a lot of people are into hockey, but there's so many other things, right? What do you hope people take from the conversation today, especially given that, as I alluded to, it's not just you in the post, but there's real value in you sharing this, I think.
Definitely. I think Manitobans are really friendly, as the saying goes. And I want to be careful not to knock anyone who's shown me incredible friendliness and kindness since I've arrived in Manitoba. I really do appreciate, my job and all of that. Um, but I think you're not alone. If you're having this experience, you're not crazy. You're not alone. There are other people out there who are looking for ways to connect. And I've even toyed with the idea of starting a group chat from all the people who said, hey, me too. Just saying, a few of us are going here and doing this, a few of us are going here and doing this, and creating a sort of meetup group uh, of young-ish adults in Brandon and seeing who connects from there organically. So just be brave.
Well, thank you for connecting with us today.
Thank you.